Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com, and today I want to talk to you about how the average entrepreneur wastes over 21 hours a week on tasks they either shouldn't be doing or should be outsourcing to somebody else, or complete just time-wasting activities such as scrolling social media or whatever. Now, you have to understand this is 21.8 hours a week wasted, but that's out of a roughly 72-hour work week. Because entrepreneurs obviously work longer than the average person. I mean, I remember when I was growing up and I got my first job, and 40 hours a week was your average work week. That was considered full time. Now it's 30 hours a week. I mean, it keeps dwindling down, and I can't even imagine working 30 hours in a week and feeling comfortable that I did so little this week and I'm happy with my life and happy the fact I'm not being productive and useful. I can't imagine that. But there people today are doing that and they're quite content. But this particular study, and I'll put the link in the description so you can read it yourself. It's a summary of it. But this is business owners. This is 6 days a week. Normally they work about 72 hours. And this is obviously the opposite of average people who are not entrepreneurs, who are working 30 hours, maybe up to 40 hours a week. And they're quite content with that. Business leaders, entrepreneurs are working double what most people are working. And so a Gallup and Wells Fargo polls found that 57% of small business owners work 6 days a week, and 20% of them work 7 days a week. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, because sometimes these polls, they say what they think sounds good. And, in the popular culture, what do you hear about in the business world? Work-life balance. So some of them may have been afraid to admit they work 7 days a week. I think there's probably a lot more. At least in my experience, most entrepreneurs work more than 6 days a week. But we'll just take that as only 20%. This is roughly 72 hours a week. These business leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives are working, and they're wasting 21.8 hours a week. The poll found that they spend 6.8 hours a week on low-value activities, something they could have paid someone else to do, things they really don't need to be doing. And this is huge in business, especially as an entrepreneur, especially if you founded a company. Sometimes it's almost like you're giving your baby over to somebody. And it can be hard to give up some control over your company, not because you don't trust people, but because it's your baby. You want to make sure everything's perfect, everything's done right. And how do you do that besides do it yourself? Which, of course, is not a good mentality if you want to grow the business and scale up and do better, because you have to let people in. You have to let them and entrust them with responsibility in your company, because you can't do it all as you grow. At first, you can, of course. The poll found that these people spend 3.9 hours each week indulging in quote-unquote mental health breaks, which could be streaming videos or social media, things like that. That's probably low too, but maybe not, I don't know. But I've seen a lot of people are just wasting time, even though they feel like it's business related. Like, oh, I'm learning and I'm reading social media posts from business leaders and entrepreneurs, and so it's not as useless as what it may really seem to be. Especially as an entrepreneur, you can talk yourself into a lot of stuff. Intelligent people can talk themselves and justify a lot of things that really shouldn't be justified. And you have to be really honest with yourself. That's why I always talk about self-examination. In the spiritual world, you examine yourself, make sure you're in the faith, as the scripture says. But in life in general, you examine yourself. Why did I do these things? Why didn't I do this thing? Why am I on social media? Why am I watching all these videos? Is it really to benefit me? Is it really moving me forward? Or is it just a time-wasting activity, something I'm escaping for mental health break, supposedly? The study found that these entrepreneurs waste 3.4 hours a week handling low-value emails. Now, this is something I've gotten rid of completely. I just barely answer emails. Now, it's not to be rude or anything, but it's just I have stuff to do. And I found I would, be checking my email multiple times a day, and more than multiple, probably dozens of times a day, to be realistic. But I started thinking about it. Wait, is this activity productive? Yes, if there's a customer issue, it's important to know and be on top of things to know what's going on in your business. But for the most part, it's stuff that either is handled within the system itself automatically. It's stuff I don't need to even waste my time with, or it's just complete waste of time. Somebody, I get a bunch of interview requests and stuff I don't even want to do because I have other things to do, and I don't view that as high value activity for me right now. Now, I may do some of those, but why am I wasting my time reading through these things and then I'm responding and sending email to somebody I have no responsibility to send an email to? Somebody cold emailing me who I don't know, who's not a friend or family member. I don't have any responsibility to respond to this individual. Now, I want to be kind and I want to be responsive and helpful, but I have to be very cognizant of the use of my time, and I can't waste it on responding to fruitless, useless emails. And there's a lot of them out there. And I think if you're honest with yourself, a lot of the emails you're responding to, I get people send me joke emails and stuff. I don't have time to waste reading some long setup to a joke. I get it. You have nothing to do. You're sending this thing out. You're forwarding it to everybody. I have things to do, and I don't have time to waste on that, because that 2 minutes I wasted on that adds up. If you're doing that every day, in a week, that's 14 minutes worth of just that one individual sending you stupid jokes. And it just expands, because if you have more reach, you got a lot more people contacting you, it could be a complete waste of time. This poll found that the average entrepreneur is wasting 3.2 hours a week dealing with low value interruptions that could have easily been handled by someone else on staff. This is one of those things where the entrepreneur is not delegating enough. Maybe they're too hands-on because they're afraid to let go of some of these things. Now, yes, you need to be on top of what's going on in your business, and you should have an open door. People can come to you and tell you if there's a problem, but you don't need to be wasting your time with people who should be taking that low value interruption to someone else and not you. And so you need to set up procedures for things that don't really need to involve you to let other people handle it, so you can focus on the more valuable things in your day that actually generate more revenue for the company. And the last three things the poll found was that they spend 1.8 hours a week handling low value requests from coworkers, another 1.8 hours a week putting out preventable fires, and 1 hour a week sitting in a completely non-productive or wasteful meeting. And this is on average. So some of you may be spending many hours a week in completely non-productive and wasteful meetings. Meetings are one of those things that they can be useful, but you need to be very diligent to keep it under control, because there are people who just like to have meetings to justify their existence in the company. And they'll make charts and they'll make PowerPoints and they'll talk, and nothing of any importance was accomplished in the least in that endeavor. It's just them babbling and talking and trying to justify that they have a job there. And meanwhile, when I'm looking at that, I think this person is justifying that they shouldn't have a job here because they're wasting our time. Make sure to keep those things concise. If you're going to have somebody, they're long-winded, they're going to go for 30 minutes or something, and it's something that doesn't really need to be talked about, give them 5 minutes and cut them off. I know that can sound a little rough, but you need to set some discipline and cut your meetings down. If you have an hour-long meetings and nothing's getting accomplished, you need to maybe cut those meetings down to 10 minutes. Yes, it's still 10 minutes wasted, but it might actually not be wasted when you have to really force people to be that concise. They might actually come up with something that's valuable instead of trying to fill the whole hour with presentations and stuff that nobody needs to see. And it doesn't help at all in the business. And so I want you to think about this. This is just talking about the average entrepreneur. Average entrepreneurs are way higher performing than average people. So you may not be an entrepreneur, you may not be a business owner or an executive. So this might be a good week for you. This poll basically found that the average entrepreneur wastes about 30% of their time. And that could be good compared to average worker bees, so to speak. Because the average worker is wasting way more time than that. And they work way less time. So they already are not working very long. And then you couple that with they're probably wasting 50% or more of the time on just useless things. taking longer breaks than they really needed, doing this and doing that, scrolling social media. I've known people who do almost no work and they're still employed because there's other people around them. They work as a team, and so everybody kind of gets credit, and this one individual doesn't do almost anything. But if you're watching a video like this, you can't be that kind of a person. You can't be average, whether you work for somebody else or whether you're an entrepreneur. You have to hold yourself to a higher level of accountability and redeem the time, because the days are evil. God didn't tell you to waste the time. God didn't tell you to kill the time. Time is your most valuable asset you have on this planet, because it is the only thing you can't recover. I guess you can technically if you start improving your health, so maybe you extend your life a little longer. But you can always get more money. You can always get more material possessions. But time, once it's wasted, is wasted, and it's gone forever. You can't recover it. You can't get more of it. So you need to be really on top of valuing your time. As I mentioned about me and my emails, and I barely check them now, sometimes once a day, maybe once every couple days, because I've streamlined everything to where I don't need to check emails. It's very rarely that I need to check emails. I have, things in place, and with today's technology, you can have AI answer 99% of your emails. You can literally write the script and write common responses and stuff, because most of the customer service requests and things like that, if you're answering them yourself, most of them could be answered by an AI robot perfectly, because people are asking basic questions that could easily be answered. They don't require any kind of training or anything. They don't require any kind of knowledge. And there's AI out there that will answer it for you. You don't have to do that. There's technology available for you to get things done, so you're not wasting your time on these things that are really low value activities. And I wouldn't even want to hire somebody to do those things, some of them, because the technology exists to do it already. So you can hire people to do more valuable activities, so they're not wasting their life answering emails and responding to common questions that somebody could easily answer themselves by going to your website. So I want to encourage you today. How are you using your time? Have you ever kept track of it? If you haven't, maybe do this. Write down what you're doing each and every day for a week. Everything. So if you go to lunch, write it down. If you use the restroom, write it down. If you go to get a drink of water, write it down. If you spend an hour doing some work activity, write it down. And as you go throughout your day, keep track of everything. That's only for a week. You don't need to do it for a week. You can do it for a few days. One day alone might be enough for you to get a real wake-up call. Like, wow, I spent 45 minutes on emails, and I don't remember any of those emails being important. There could be things like that that really stand out to you that you take note of, because you're now keeping track and noticing the time and how it's being wasted. And now you can start making some changes to recover some of your time back that was going toward wasted activities, and really get more important things, more of those high value activities done each and every day. And stop being one of these average people who is wasting 30% of their work week or more, and become that high value person that you deserve to be, that you want to be, that you're striving to be, and accomplish those great things that God has put you here to accomplish. My friend, I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.